So today we're going to show you how to install a fixed stock of actually the whole buffer tube assembly. This is an A2 style buffer tube assembly. This is the buffer tube itself. The assembly would be the weight and of course the spring. That makes it kind of the assembly. So if you have a regular adjustable stock and you want to go to a fixed stock for some reason, this is basically going to show you how to do that. It's very simple. One of the things to mention is when you're installing the A2 style or fixed style buffer tube, the rear takedown detent, which I don't have installed on this receiver right now, this tube doesn't cover up that hole. I don't know if you guys can kind of see that, where this tube does not cover up this hole where the backing plate would normally cover it, or the end plate, whatever you call it, and it would retain that spring in place. So what actually retains the rear detent spring in place is the stock itself, which we'll show you in a little while. So first things first, one of the things we have to install before we put the tube on is this buffer retainer. This little pin, this retainer pin, actually is what holds your buffer weight in place. There's a spring which kind of sits down inside of it. I don't know if you saw that. It kind of sits right down inside the buffer pin or retainer pin, and this whole assembly kind of sits down right into the receiver. There's a hole machined right where the threads are for the buffer. You can kind of see that it's like this rear hole sits down in there. You're going to basically push this pin down as you thread in the buffer tube itself. So we're going to go ahead and do that. Very simple. There we go. I'm holding the pin down just enough to kind of keep it from going popping out, basically. Now we're going to go ahead and torque down the tube to the receiver. So this is just an armorer's wrench here for the AR platform. Basically it has a wrench on it to be able to torque this down. Just going to go ahead and tighten it up. There we go. And we'll go ahead and we're going to put our weight and our spring in place. So this is pretty straightforward and simple. Basically, I'm going to take the spring here and we're going to place the buffer weight inside of it. You just kind of push it on like so. Now, go ahead and just guide the spring into the hole. Just push it in like so, and the buffer detent pin holds the buffer weight in place. Now we've got our A2 style fixed buffer tube installed. Next up, we're going to go ahead and install our stock. But before we do that, we're going to install our rear takedown pin, because the stock, like I mentioned earlier, is going to hold the rear detent spring and detent pin in place. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and install our rear takedown pin. Now this happens to be the AR-15 Extreme.com enhanced or extended rather takedown pins. Pretty cool, nice feature to be able to help grab onto them a little easier. Next, we can go ahead and install our detent pin, followed by one of our detent springs. Just going to kind of make sure I get this into place. You kind of hear it click. It's in there. So now you notice the spring sticks out a little ways. So on the Luth-AR stock here, we actually have to remove the rubber butt pad. I noticed I removed the two screws already, so that'd be easier just to show you guys on film here. So the reason we have to remove it is because the retaining screw is actually underneath this rubber cover, the rubber butt pad. So we're going to go ahead and leave that off. Go ahead and slide the stock over the buffer tube. Notice it fits nice and snug, nothing loose. Wiggle it in place, and if you notice, it pushes down on the spring and retains it in place. So now that we got the stock fully seated up against the receiver here, we're going to go ahead and install the screw up here to retain it. So once we got the screw installed there, we can go ahead and reinstall the rubber pad that covers it, the rubber butt pad. And one nice thing about Luth-AR is that they actually give you the Allen wrench and to use to put these screws in. And not only that, but they actually made a provision on the stock itself to retain this Allen wrench, so that you don't have to worry about searching around for it. It's already on your rifle, and it's something that's very lightweight, so it's not like it's adding something to the rifle that you're going to worry about, substantially or anything like that. By the way, there is another way to get to this rear screw on the Luth-AR stock here. Just remove the rear adjustable section for the length of pole. Basically, just do it by hand. You don't have to even have a tool. Kind of something I wasn't quite thinking about when I was doing this. But you can pull it apart and just slide this section off, like so. So pretty much simple as that. Now, if you're installing a different style fixed stock that utilizes the A2 style buffer tube, they're all going to install pretty much the same. Again, this video is basically for those just kind of starting out with ARs and wanting to see what's involved with changing out a stock. Something very simple. And for you guys out there watching, I hope you all enjoyed it. And until next time, go out and have some fun shooting.